We've got insurance registration data for the week of June 16th through the 22nd, and I've got a lot more lined up and queued up. So let's just jump right in. NIO with 3,300, Onvo with 1,500, and about 500 Firefly. These are rough estimates on the numbers. So about 5,200 for the weekly numbers. That's for the week of June 16th through the 22nd. But if we look at the month to date and the data as we've seen it, there's about 9,000 there. That's from June 2nd through the 15th. So with these numbers, probably based on the guidance that NIO gave us, we're going to need to see a big week. Now, that is possible if we look back at, say, the end of April, there was an 8,000 number. And in fact, William Lee did tell us that before long, we would be seeing 9,000 on the weekly side of things. I've kept it on the thumbnail, and I'll keep it there until we actually see that come in. They have only done that one time, and that was at the end of December 2024, in case you were wondering. This is amazing. Firefly with battery as a service, the price announced, and it's about 11,000 US dollars. That's ridiculous. Look, we have nothing here in the US that can compete with that. So along with that, I wanted to pivot over and share. I've got 3 things lined up. You can access all of these through the NIO website. This is the Firefly part of the NIO website, but I'll link everything in the description as well, because this, for example, is something that NIO announced through the Firefly part of kind of under the NIO website, but on the Firefly part, as you'll note the date here, 6/17, so June 17th, 2025, some of the expansion. But then if we also go over and look at the NIO part of, again, on the actual NIO site, this is the most recent post that they've done, and that is the addition or the expansion rather into some other markets. So they've improved, but they have so many things going on. It's hard to keep track of all of it and even access it all in the same place. So again, this is the Onvo side. You can get to this once more through the NIO site. But this is the part, and I have a question actually for the NIO FAM, the global community. I need help with this because I've been wondering about this. And I know they're not going to be truly comparable, but the L90 is going to be coming out from Onvo and from NIO. And I believe I didn't get a tab queued up with it, but I believe they're going to be starting deliveries, or at least pre-sales, maybe in July, with the expected deliveries to start, I think, in third quarter. And maybe that will align with Factory 3 coming online. I think that's maybe planned for September. But here's my question is this. It's an NEV, right? It's an extended range EV. So it's not a true BEV that Li Auto has, this L6. But I was just wondering if the year-to-date numbers for that L6 in this vehicle, at least in any way, is comparable, or the BEV offering of the L90 from Onvo is even a better vehicle, and it's a BEV with battery swappable capabilities. Then I guess my question is, do we think that it can have this kind of sales power? This is 80,000 almost sales that they've gotten with the L6 to date. And so, that's just in this year of 2025. And I have no idea, but I do know that William Lee made a reference to how the year-on-year sales for this particular size vehicle in the BEV were much increased relative or compared to the NEV, which would be that EREV, I think from Li Auto. Anyway, I wanted to offer that because it's in my mind, but I don't have the answer. I don't even have a good comparison. So that's why I wanted to ask you all. So let me know in the comments. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is NIO still has so much coming. This is the ES8, and this is the MIIT filing for that. So that's going to be coming out. NIO's also going to be coming out with the L80. So spy shots, of course, seeing that getting tested. And here's something I've seen in the comment section. I want to actually point it out. And this is consistent with my expectation and what we've seen NIO do in the past with their entity structure, is they'll be open to bringing in partners and allowing ownership interest in some of their entities. And that's what it looks like they'll do with the chip side of the business. And this is from ThinkerCar, so not officially from NIO. Maybe William Lee will speak on it in an upcoming earnings, but NIO intends to transfer a small equity stake to strategic investors while maintaining control over the project entity. This is consistent with what we've seen NIO do. We probably won't have the actual numbers until next year with the annual SEC filing. Usually that comes out in about April. So anyway, I wanted to offer that because it didn't surprise me. I didn't think NIO was going to try and sell out. I figured they would bring in investors strategically. That's typically what they do, and then they maintain control. So How about the safety aspect, which is largely flying under the radar, I think, but NIO seems very, very well positioned. And shout out Cool Cat NIO Onvo, because I'm actually going to pull this up. There are a lot of cool videos that this account shares, and so I wanted to offer that and a link to some of them as well. Some of the things like NIO's world model, but also some of the safety aspects and how impressive that is for NIO. I think that's going to be really important, especially in the Chinese market, where, for example, the ET9 came out with capabilities and it's already at an L4 level with its autonomy, but it's not allowed to operate there. Legally, China hasn't allowed that yet because the focus is on safety there. And so it's not quite like the Wild West here with, Elon and Tesla, just trying to jump out and push out robotaxi. And we really don't even know what that looks like, even though he's been talking about it for 10 years plus. But again, in the meantime, under the radar, very quietly, we've got NIO with Firefly around Berlin doing autonomous vehicle testing. We have no idea how good NIO is going to be with its autonomous driving, but I have said it for several years now. I'm going to keep saying it. I do believe it will surprise a lot of folks. Now, if you made it to this point, congratulations. I didn't know how fast I could get through all of that I had lined up, but I did want to go a little bit deeper on things. And also, this is a good time, a good point to say, what are your thoughts as an investor? And I appreciate the comment section and the dialogue, the authentic dialogue. I really value the NIO Global community as well. And so there was, I know, one comment recently. I saw a number of people had liked the comment from David. So shout out David for that. And he basically said, things are kind of boring. Stock price action is boring. Everything, we're just kind of like, even the weekly numbers, we're just going to get that data. And it's just kind of it's not an exciting time if you're paying attention or kind of tracking the stock price. And even though NIO continues for years now to make massive partnerships and position and do all these different things, I think that profitability is the next big step for the company and for excitement. And also, I do think it's important for the stock price, not just because of what we've seen from other IDE companies like Tesla and NVIDIA and Google and lots of those names that at an earlier stage had heavier shorting and potentially manipulation with the stock price early on. But I think that's just part of being a growth stock and a startup, a growth company that needs to establish through a ton of R&D over the years. Again, a nod to, I want to say it again, William Li talked about how they basically chose to invest the equivalent of 1,000 power swap station cost and infrastructure into the development of their chip. And we don't have any idea what kind of return they'll get for that value. But frankly, I think it was a good value play. Although I also think the power swap station build out and infrastructure continues to be very important as far as NIO becoming better recognized, even in the most important market for NIO, which is China. Again, a nod to William Li and what he shared with us not too long ago. I think it was 2 earnings calls ago, when he said that there's only one geographic region basically where about half of NIO sales are coming from, meaning in this massive market, they have a lot more brand awareness, market awareness, recognition that needs to be known. And so I still think, especially in the premium sub-segmented, that BEV space, and I'll link a video here at the end where I talked about it, because it's a big, important fact and point that I don't think people realize, that I still think over 70% of the premium sales are going to gas automakers like the German brands, Audi, Mercedes, and BMW. And so they continue to have a dominant position across the entire market, but that's going to change in the future. So NIO needs to continue getting the brand and market awareness out, especially in China. At least that's my take. All right, I'm done with my rant. Let me wrap it. And this did end up being an over 8-minute video, so I will create timestamps, chapters, to make it more convenient for the viewers, so you can jump around. Don't have to, let's say, listen to me talk toward the end if you don't want to. So in any event, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. I'll see y'all again very soon.